the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast, the official podcast of Football Italia. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and Tavallaey. On today's show, we will react to the Serie A weekend action. Lazio stunning Napoli at the Stadio Maradona, meaning that Atalanta go top of Serie A after making it 9 wins in a row. A late Ademola Lookman goal, all but ending any hopes of Milan challenging for the Scudetto. And we could say the same about Juventus, or should we call them Draw-Ventus, as they draw yet again at home to Bologna, coming from 2 behind. Samuel Mbangula curling home an injury time equaliser to preserve their unbeaten record. Inter continue their brilliant form with a dominant win over Parma. Fiorentina make it 8 wins in a row, while we have an important update on Eduardo Bove's health after his cardiac arrest last week. And Roma get their first win under Claudio Ranieri, thrashing Lecce. We'll also preview the Champions League matches this midweek, big midweek. And we'll also have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday, where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP, become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. Link is in the description. And for all of you that do listen on Spotify, Apple and iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating. Also, do subscribe to us on YouTube. All of that really helps us to grow and do more quality content for you guys. Okay, let's get into today's show. So we'll start off with the big Sunday evening match at the Stadio Maradona. Napoli against Lazio. Napoli went into this game knowing that they needed to win to go back to the top of Serie A, but they lose 1-0 to Lazio. A shock defeat for Napoli, which means that Atalanta end the weekend top of Serie A. We will talk about Atalanta's game against Milan shortly. But first of all, this shock defeat for Napoli, Nemo, let's talk about it first from the Napoli point of view. This was a frustrating evening for Napoli. They started really well. First kind of 10 to 15 minutes, they were really started on fire, and you thought this was going to set the tone for the rest of the game. McTominay missed a big chance on 2 minutes. But after that, they struggled to create really anything. I think the only other kind of half chance they had was a header off a corner from Anguissa in the second half where it clipped the post. But apart from that, Napoli really struggled to create.
They did. They did, like you said, they struggled to create. And that's something that I think we've mentioned it quite a few times on the pod ever since, it's waned off, isn't it? And what was supposed to happen, the plan was very clear. Yes, Romelu Lukaku doesn't have the explosive, pace that he once did. Yes, he's not the player he once was, but he's good enough still with his back against the goal to hold up play and put others in play. And the goals were supposed to, this was supposed to be Khvicha's explosion. Well, they started playing a 3-4-2-1 or 3-5-2, however you want to play with it, and Khvicha never really blossomed, and so he reverted to a 4-3-3. The defense still looked good, but Khvicha still is not scoring. And for this system to work, he needs to have that 20-25 goal a season in the league goal scorer. And they're not. Lukaku isn't that guy. We know that. And so who's it going to be? Is it going to be Politano? Is it going to be Khvicha? My money was always on Khvicha. He's not anywhere near the player he was. He's better than he was last season, for sure. But he's nowhere near who he was in his first season. And I think that is the main reason why they've only scored 21 goals, which, if I'm not mistaken, is less than Juventus in the Serie A after 15 games.
Yeah.
So
that's correct. They were
it's
quite some distance. The
yeah,
seventh highest scorers, like out the
yeah.
top seven, the Napoli are well short.
I mean, that is the biggest worry here. Conte's teams never really struggle to create and chance because he gets to create and score because he's a system coach, right? And he demanded these players and he demanded this. Okay, McTominay has been a very positive surprise for them in terms of goal scoring, but he was never going to be a 15, 20 goal a season striker or midfielder. It's just not going to happen. So these goals have to come from somewhere, and they're not coming from the attack. That is a problem. And of course, when you have Lukaku in this late stage of his career where he doesn't have that blistering pace, he doesn't have that blistering ability to combine his power and pace and physique and beast mode that he was at Inter. He can't do that anymore. Well, what he can do, however, is put others into play. Well, then you need others stepping up, and others aren't stepping up. And that's the problem here, I think, for Napoli in terms of moving forward.
Because they can't keep winning 1-0, 1-0,
well, no,
1-0,
it's
1-0.
not just that. Well, you can continue winning 1-0 if there is some sort of a if there is a system in place that works. If you feel that but the 1-0 wins that Napoli have had, they look a little bit different in this light now when you look at it after 15 games, in the sense that, well, those you can grind out 1-0 wins, but the system has to be there has to be something to suggest that the system is working. And I feel that in the attacking phase, after 15 games, I don't see how that is true of Napoli.
The
At least not
the attacking
in
phase
attack.
the attacking phase hasn't been working in the biggest games against the big teams. The chance creation has been very, very low in the big matches this season, with the exception of the Milan game. If you actually look at the expected goals in the big games that Napoli have played this season, Milan is the exception, and that wasn't a particularly high, particularly high XG in that game. They had an XG of 1.13 against Milan. But if you look at the other games, very, very low. This game, they had an XG of 0.6 against Lazio. Only one shot on target in the whole game. That was that McTominay shot after 2 minutes.
They had a good exchange chance creation in terms of what they played against Roma. They had a decent against Torino. But other than that,
the big teams. I mean,
I'm not just talking. Yeah, but it's not just the big.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish my point, Nima. That against the biggest games, against the biggest match, 0.6 xG against Lazio, 0.31 xG against Juventus, 0.66 xG against Inter. They're basically nothing apart from the McTominay goal. And in the Atalanta game where they got hammered 3-0, 0.77 xG. So the stats are there in black and white. They struggle. Against the biggest teams. When it comes to the best teams, they have struggled to create chances. Listen, there's no need to panic here. They're only 2 points off the top, but we're looking at what is their weakness so far this season, and I think it's definitely chance creation and goals scored general, but especially against the big teams.
But that leads me nicely into what I think is the positive part for Napoli, something to feel positive about in terms of the attacking phase. And that is that what we know from Antonio Conte's teams previously is that they generally don't create that much in the beginning. There's a buzz first couple of games, then it kind of dies out, and then it needs time to settle in. And from January, February, that's when they really kind of hit their stride and hit their peak, and then everything kind of floats together, especially when he's only got one game a week. So I do think that absolutely there's nothing to panic about. There are concerns, of course, like you mentioned, especially in the big games. And I think, I can't remember who it was who tweeted out a stat that basically, essentially, apart from once or twice the last 7-8 years, the team that wins the league is the team with the best result in direct encounters with the other big teams, right? I think it was Milan was an exception when they won the Scudetto. I can't remember. I don't have it off by heart, but I have this vague memory of it. That might, that's it's still early in the sense. Okay, we're 15 games in. They beat Milan, they drew Juve, they drew Inter away. This was, they lost to Atalanta at home, they lost to Lazio at home. It's a mediocre, head-to-head record. But then again, neither of the others are impressing head-to-head either. Inter don't exactly have the best head-to-head record either. They lost to Juve, they lost to Milan, they drew with Juve, they drew with Napoli, games they should have won. They beat Atalanta. It's not too impressive. I think they're going to play Lazio next, if I'm not mistaken. So there is they're playing Lazio next weekend. So no one is running away with it. Atalanta as well. I mean, Atalanta, yes, they beat Atalanta have done well. They lost to Inter, got smashed against Inter. They, so you don't really have anyone. They beat Milan, of course. They, if you want to count Roma, which I don't count them. They beat Napoli. So yes, Atalanta are the ones doing the best results so far in the head-to-head against the top sides. But it's an Atalanta who.
But they haven't played.
Not just Atalanta,
they
but
haven't played Juventus. They haven't played Lazio.
Yeah, they haven't played exactly. Yeah. So it does feel like there's question marks, and that's the positive side of these head-to-heads for Napoli, in that aspect, in the sense that, well, there's lots of question marks, and that's the general feeling I have 15 games into this season, that we were right that it's a 3-horse race. I had Inter, Napoli, and Juve. Well, we got two of those right. I think we both said Juve, Napoli, Inter are going to fight for the Scudetto. Well, we got 2 of those right. It is Napoli, it is Inter, but it's Atalanta. I don't see Juve and Milan anywhere near this.
Yeah, I said that Juventus could hang in there certainly longer than they have done.
Well, I had Juventus
I didn't think they would win it. I thought that they could maybe challenge and try to hang in there, but I didn't have Atalanta. I'll be honest there.
No, neither did I.
I didn't have Atalanta.
No.
I had Napoli and Inter for sure.
Yeah, I had Napoli and Inter. I had Juventus perhaps even winning it. If I remember, they were going to. I had them as my favorites to win. I think I had them in my last Serie A. Like the after the Mercato, I had them first. I think I had Napoli third, Inter second. I can't remember now, but definitely not Juventus.
Look, it's very tight. Look, it's really tight at the top. So there's going to be things are going to change. This is just one game, but Napoli have shown. We've seen what Napoli's weaknesses are now. Now they have to try and address them. It really is as simple as that. I mean, I thought that if we're looking at the other way. I mean, they didn't really concede anything. We'll come on to Lazio. I mean, Lazio didn't create anything clear-cut themselves in this game. I mean, they hit the bar with a wonder shot, and then the winner is a great strike.
A wonderful goal.
But it's a mistake from Oliveira. It's bad from Oliveira.
But it's a wonderful pass by Noslian as well. And give praise to him for that.
But the defender should cut it out. It bounces. He should cut it out. He lets it run through to him. It's bad defending, but it's a great finish. It's a very low probability chance that you're going to cut in and score from there, and it's a brilliant goal from Isaacson. So you give credit to that, but in general, Napoli they disappointing today, considering that they rested their whole team in midweek against Lazio. All 11 players were rested purely to concentrate on this game and to be fresh for this game, whereas Lazio played, rotated a little bit, but played quite a lot of the players. It shows that Napoli, they're in one competition now, but they didn't get it right today. But we have to give credit at the same time to Lazio now. This is they've shown that they're not just some kind of flash in the pan.
No.
I think that they are. I think they again. Like I said with Juventus, I'm not saying they're going to go and get in the top 4, but I think that they are definitely going to challenge for the top 4. I think I've seen enough. We've seen enough from them now that there's enough quality. They've got an excellent coach in Baroni, who's already putting his hat in the ring for coach of the year already.
Without a doubt.
I think they're stacked in attack. They've got so much depth in attack, so many goal scorers, players that can chip in with goals from the attack and even deeper down in the pitch. But what was so impressive about them today, and this is something that maybe we had concerns about them earlier in the season, even when they were on their good run, is defensively how solid they looked, how organised they looked. You know, they were so well set up. There were no spaces for Napoli to play through them, whether they went through the middle, whether they tried to put crosses in. They were so well organised defensively, fantastic. I mean, Gila was great, really great. Nuno Tavares showed how much he has grown defensively. I remember watching him at Arsenal a few years ago, and he could not defend. I mean, he really has come on leaps and bounds already this season as defensively. And then, you know, you look at the midfield. I mean, they were without the suspended Rovella. Vecino would have usually come in, but he was injured. So they brought in Deli Bashiru, the youngster, and he was fantastic. I thought he was the best midfielder on the pitch. I mean, that shot, that deserved a goal. I mean, that was an absolute blockbuster. But I mean, he runs, he's physical, he was bullying players, but he was doing his defensive work as well. I thought he was excellent, and I think he's a big talent. So they've got players coming through as well. So yeah, I like what I'm seeing from Lazio. I really do. Don't sleep on Lazio. Don't just expect them to fall away. I do expect Fiorentina to fall away, as we'll discuss later in the show. I don't think Fiorentina can keep up a challenge for the top four. I think they will eventually fall away. But Lazio, I'm not saying they will, but I think that we can't just expect them to slip away. I think that they've shown enough. They've got enough quality, and they've got a really, really good coach that they can have their say in the top four this season.
I remember when Baroni was appointed at Lazio, and for no reason, Beppe Marotta made a statement congratulating Lazio on an excellent appointment. There is cause to believe that when Marotta speaks about these matters, he knows what he's talking about. His career would suggest that he does, and he's been proven right. It's been, look, I loved Baroni, what he's done, and I think he fully deserved this appointment and this big chance at this stage in his career. But I would be a damned liar if I were to say that I expected him to do what he's done so far. I mean, it's truly remarkable what he has done with Lazio.
It is 61 years old. He's 24-year managerial career. I'm looking at the list of teams he's coached. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. This is his 17th job. You know,
he did excellently at Lecce. He did very well at Hellas. A miracle.
Oh, miracle what he did last
at Hellas. And so now he goes to Lazio, and he's kind of using all his experience. You know, he's never really been in Europe before. He hasn't been in Europe before, and he kind of now they're doing fantastically in the Europa League. This is the first time he's playing 3 times a week, really, and they should be perfect in the Europa League if they hadn't been robbed.
No, I think he's rotated brilliantly. He's rotated brilliantly. The squad and
the team is fresh.
Like, physically, they look very, very, very fresh.
They're very fresh. It was a
difficult pitch today as well because it was raining, which makes it heavy and very tiring. And they didn't look tired, you know. So I thought I'm very impressed with Baroni. I have to say, he was a good player in his playing days as well. He was part of the Napoli team.
They won the Serie A and the Supercoppa.
In fact, he scored the goal that won them on the final day, that won them the Scudetto in 1990.
89-90.
Yeah,
I remember. And he won the Supercoppa as well with them in that season.
Yeah,
in 1990. So. No, look.
Do you know which team he scored the title clinching goal on the last day of the season? Do you know who it was against?
Wasn't it Inter? No.
Lazio,
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
So there you go. It's a bit of a full circle there,
full
isn't it?
Circle moment for Napoli. For Baroni. No, he's done an absolutely fantastic job, and he the way that he's built this team and the players that he's getting the most out of, you know, young, old. You know, the way that he uses someone like Tijani Noslin, that the decision making, the timing of that substitution, he's absolutely killing it right now. And Nuno Tavares again. I mean, he's so good.
But he was disciplined today. He didn't just bomb forward like a madman, like he does sometimes. You know, he was disciplined and balanced.
I just got to say how impressed I've been with Guendouzi since he came to Lazio. I was not this guy's favorite. He was not one of my favorite players. I've always found him to be a little bit of a headless chicken.
Mm.
But it seems like since he's come to Lazio and the coaches he's had, he's been very disciplined. And especially this season under
This season,
Baroni.
especially, yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
it's like he's taught him how to think, Baroni, and it's very it's very cool, very cool to see. And now when players like Isaksen, who've been a flop until now, or if they start score, no, it's you got to hand it to Baroni. And again, as I've said 100 million times on this podcast, Lotito is a master at rebuilds. The first 1-2 seasons, the first 2 stages of a rebuild, Lotito always gets right. It's the third stage when they want to take that final step where he just becomes too arrogant and it's not and doesn't have the competence to take it that far. But at this point, he always has an ability to reboot and rebuild with very little. And he's always questioned. Lazio are always questioned and always criticized, like they were last summer, when they do a reboot and a restart. But he always proves his detractors wrong. Or his Lazio, I should say, rather, always prove their detractors wrong in this stage of the Lazio project. And you got to hand it to them. I've watched most of their games in the Europa League as well, and I got to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if they went on and won the whole damn thing there, because they look so like controlled, they look so clear, they look so cohesive all over the pitch. You barely tell the difference when they are in Europe and they're in the Serie A. If anything, I think they've impressed more even when they've been rotating in Europe than they have been in the Serie A. So no, you gotta give it to them. They're definitely. I mean, this was the worst thing that can happen for Milan and Juve. This result, they'd be kicking themselves.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, they don't want. I mean, they want Lazio, Fiorentina. They seem to slip up, yeah, and they're not.
But they're not.
Keep winning, yeah.
And I got to be honest with you. I think that Lazio for sure are in the top 4 race. I expect Fiorentina to kind of fall off, maybe finish 5th, 6th, something like that. But Lazio, no, they're this is
no. I've seen too much. I've seen enough of Lazio to be quite confident that they're going to be. Again, I'm not saying they're going to get it, but I think that they're going to be challenging. I think.
Same. They're going to be in the fight for top 4 until the end, and they're going to push Milan and Juve to the very edge. And if I'm more Milan than Juve, I'd be very worried.
I think both of them. Yeah, I think both have to be very, very careful. They do. They really
careful
do.
For sure. But I'm not worried for Juve. I'm worried for Milan. Like if I'm looking at this from that aspect,
I think both have got to get going, because Lazio have showed a lot. I'm impressed. I mean, the top of the table is insane right now. I mean, Atalanta 34, Napoli 32, Fiorentina and Inter 31 with that game in hand that they still need to play out. Lazio 31. I mean, 3 points separating the top 5. I mean, it's mad, isn't it? It's absolutely mad.
It's a lovely Serie A. I love the Serie A when it's like this, and it's when it's this tight in every part of the table where it matters, whether it's the winner, whether it's top 4, whether it's European spots, whether it's the relegation battle. This is the Serie A when it's absolutely at its best, when it's a nail biter, and how we've missed it, because the last 2 seasons, especially in the top, we've not really had that, have we?
No, absolutely. Let's hope it continues.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's move on to Atalanta against Milan, way back on Friday evening. And Atalanta just march on, Nima. Yet another victory for them. Not their best performance, but it was a win earned with both their goals coming off set pieces, headers off a free kick and a corner. So for all their free-flowing football that we've seen Atalanta play for so many years now, maybe during that time that they've lacked that ability to win ugly in ways like that they did against Milan. And I think that can only be seen as a good sign, because I think to win titles and to win championships and win the Scudetto, you've got to be able to win ugly as well. There's going to be games that are going to be tight, especially later on in the season when when tiredness kicks in. So to be able to win this game against Milan, even though I thought they were the better team, to be able to win scoring off set pieces in a game where I thought Milan actually defended pretty well, apart from these two set piece goals. I think that that should also be seen as a positive for Atalanta. It shows that they are becoming more of a complete team now.
Absolutely, it was a very mature performance by Atalanta. It was from pretty much from the get-go. Again, Retegui benched in a big game, playing with a kind of a false nine, reinforcing the midfield, which has proven rather successful for Gasperini in big games, starting with the Napoli game. And I mean, if we start with the Atalanta perspective, it's a mature performance by a team who showed that they very much are a Scudetto contender. This isn't the Atalanta of a couple of seasons ago. This is an Atalanta who behave like a team, like a top club, like a top team that knows how to fight for titles, which is, the only title they've won is, of course, the Europa League. But they've been to a couple of Coppa Italia finals under Gasperini. They've been finished in the top four, the Champions League runs, and so on and so forth. And that's given them kind of the whole club kind of a belief and experience, which allows them to completely systematically take on these big games, which I think they did brilliantly against Milan. I think it was a very, very, very mature performance, and it was a very calm performance, and the way that they, again, I'm so impressed by how Atalanta managed to play to their strengths and to Milan's weaknesses in a very systematic, cool, calm, collected way. Even after Milan equalized, Atalanta, when watching this, I felt like, well, Atalanta are going to keep systematically breaking down Milan to see where they go, playing their brand, not compromising on their identity necessarily, but also adapting to the fact that Milan are a big club, like they did against Napoli, showing that they can't push as high up as they do against Milan or Napoli as they do against smaller clubs, like when they play Udinese or whatever. So it was tactical maturity from Gasperini. The individuals we're going to talk about, Lookman, De Ketteler. Pasalic was great. Samardzic, when he came on, was great. Retegui, I thought, came on at the right time and did his part. It's a very united squad. It's a very united team. It's a very united club. And they have this dream that they believe in. And I think they are right to believe in it. They are dark horses, as I said in the preview of the Serie A before the season started, that they are, despite all the Lookmans and Scamacas and Scalvinis, who incidentally made his return in this game. Despite all of that, they have really strengthened more than adequately enough. And they're not weakened. If not stronger, they're certainly not weaker.
They've won nine wins in a row now.
Yeah, club record equaled.
And they've never less than 2 goals scored in that run. So, I mean, they're scoring for fun. They can't stop scoring. 12 wins in 13 in all competitions, and Real Madrid at home next as well, which will be great. So, they really are. They're riding the wave at the moment, and they're looking great. And De Ketteler is the one, I guess, to really single out in this game, because I think that the goal that he scored really demonstrated that not only Atalanta and how they've become more complete, but also the development of De Ketteler himself, because of course, he came to Serie A, joined Milan as very highly rated, had a complete disaster there, just looked like weak, timid, scared, schoolboy when he was at Milan. He's gone to Atalanta. Gasperini's worked his magic, and in 2024, he's one of only 3 players in Europe's top 5 leagues to have 15 plus goals and 15 plus assists. The other 2 are Salah, and I'm gone blank on who the other one was, but one of them Salah and De Ketelaere. So De Ketelaere's only one of only three. And if you look at the goal that he scored, the way that he was strong, he was aggressive, he manhandled Theo Hernandez. So, De Ketelaere, like Atalanta, has become a man. He's become, this big, impressive man. He was a boy. He's now a man. And that goal and the aggression, the physical strength, and he's really getting really good in the air as well, De Ketelaere. Like he's actually being used again to we talk about kind of not having Retegui and wondering, is there an aerial threat? Is there a direct threat? Well, actually, like I've noticed that Atalanta have actually sometimes been going direct to De Ketelaere, just like putting a little long ball, a little direct pass to him, and he's been using his height. So like he's even developing that side of the game. So De Ketelaere, absolutely, and another right call by Gasperini to drop Retegui like he did against Napoli and play De Ketelaere. So yeah, he was, I think, the standout player from an attacking sense. And then of course you've got Lookman as well, who actually didn't have one of his better games, but he turned up when it mattered. A huge, he's turns up in the big games like he did in the Europa League final. 86-minute winner. And it's a poacher goal, again, showing how all these Atalanta players are becoming complete players. Like Lookman isn't a poacher. He's not that kind of player, but he scored a poacher's goal. Brilliant movement, lost his man, span off his man from a corner, and scores with his head. So, it's really impressive, Atalanta, just how they are, how complete they're all becoming.
They really are complete. They're a side that, like I said, the maturity of it. They can attack and defend and win games in many different ways, which is the hallmark of a team that wins championships and wins leagues and wins important trophies. And that's what I meant when I said about the maturity and how tactically Gasperini has learned how to take on these big games. The only big club he has a dreadful record at is against Inter, but we'll see when they face each other again, not just in the Supercoppa, but more importantly in the Serie A, how he takes on that game. Does he adapt again? Does he again play with a false nine? Does he again try to pack the midfield and try to cut off Inter's passing lanes and press them that way? Because there were still moments, especially when Milan scored their equalizer, where Atalanta were too easily carved open. That's still an issue. I think that's more a systemic issue, more than a tactical issue. If you play like Atalanta and Gasperini play, those things will happen. And so it's incumbent on the opposition to take ruthless advantage of that when those opportunities present themselves, like Milan did. It was brilliant. I mean, the way that Theo down through the line to Leao, ran with it, three simple passes, and the equalizer was there. So Atalanta do have weaknesses.
Yeah, in the first half they were a little bit more open, but the second half, as we'll come on to, Milan were a complete non-entity from the centre, from the halfway line upwards. Atalanta closed that down. The only criticism I had, and I was going to actually criticise Gasperini a little bit, is that I thought that Atalanta had clearly run out of ideas in the second half until the substitutes come on, Retegui and Samasic. And Gasperini waited until 15 minutes to go to make those substitutions. I thought he waited too long. But, they got the goal and it was off a corner. So I think maybe a little bit lucky, a little bit fortunate. I think Gasperini waited too long on this. I think he should have made those subs at least 10 or 15 minutes earlier, which is unlike him, to be fair. He's usually very proactive and usually goes much earlier than most managers. So, not much to read into that, but it worked. It doesn't matter. They should have actually made it 3-1. Retegui missed a one-on-one in injury time to score the third. But Atalanta, they find a way. It's looking so good for them. They're right up there at the top, challenging at the top, and it's going to be fascinating to see how they do. I'm really looking forward to the Real Madrid game in midweek as well.
So am I. It's going to be very interesting because I think if they win that, and Real Madrid are kind of a shaky this season, but if they win that, they are they can finish in the top 8.
It's another test also about this maturity, like you said, because they lost in the Super Cup in the first game of the season, in the European Super Cup, and now they played them again. So it's a good test to see what lessons they've learned from that, how their players have grown from that. Because what we've seen so far is this is an Atalanta team that are growing from a mental point of view, and in terms of experience and in terms of game management and just knowing what to do at the right moments. And that is the sign of a team that has been there for a number of years now and is now ready to, and comfortable in their own skin. So I'm very, very impressed. Less impressed by Milan. I thought if we look at this from the Milan perspective, I actually thought if we look at them from a defensive point of view first, to kind of start with the sort of positives, I actually thought that Milan's defending and compactness in this game was actually pretty good for most of this game, apart from, and Fonseca said this at the end of the game himself, apart from the 2 set-piece goals. They let themselves down on those set pieces. But in open play, Atalanta didn't create anything really, apart from that Retegui chance in injury time, which was because Milan are pushing forward. It came about because Milan are pushing forward trying to get an equaliser. So, can't really count that. For the most part, really, Atalanta didn't create anything from open play. They let themselves down on the set pieces. I thought they were pretty compact. I think Musa definitely helps the team be more, everything we've criticised Milan for being so open, like we saw against Liverpool, like we saw against Club Brugge, even against Slovan Bratislava when they scored that goal. You remember the guy ran from his midway in the Milan half straight through on goal. All that kind of stuff. I think that there was definitely progress on there. But what we did see, again, from a defensive point of view, is Milan conceding the same goal that they're repeatedly conceding this season, which is crosses to the far post, whether that comes from a corner or just from a straightforward cross. Milan cannot and are not defending crosses to the far post. There's been so many goals and chances they've conceded this season. Obviously, the Cagliari game was the best example where I think they conceded 2 goals and had 2 goals disallowed, Cagliari, in that match with crosses to the far post. And we saw again in this game, the first goal is a cross to the far post, which Teketele scores. He manhandles Teo Hernandez, which makes a change the other way around. But and then there's the winner again. Emerson who actually I thought had a pretty good game. Went to sleep. He was sleeping. He lost his man. He was ball watching, and Lookman span off him and scored. And that's just basic defending, isn't it? That's just basic standard defending. That is, defend your far post if you're a fullback. Watch your man, hold your position, be aware. And Milan, they let themselves down in this game.
No. I think it's. I mean, when De Ketteler scored, I did kind of had this feeling that this is very much circles, like things coming, full circle, in the sense that De Ketteler was chased out of a Milan where he didn't suit the football Pioli wants to play at all. Meanwhile, Milan, he would be almost irreplaceable if he played for this Milan under Fonseca, given what he wants to do tactically. He scores that goal. Then you have a Milan who defensively, you can argue that Fonseca is to blame for sure. But then you also look at Emerson Royal and Teo, and you look at how awful they are on defensive set pieces, time and time and time again. And you're thinking, okay, well, that this was already a problem, and now it's become 100 times worse. And then you have Fonseca there, who seems completely unable to mitigate or do anything about it, because it's not the first time that Milan concede on set pieces at the back post. And it's like it's starting to feel that all the mistakes that they made, Milan, tactically, technically, in the summer, in terms of Emerson Royal being 15 million paid for him, it's all kind of manifesting those question marks are manifesting themselves as abject mistakes now on the pitch. And I think it's perfectly, I've not had Milan all season. I don't think they had a prayer in the Scudetto race, but now they're definitely out. There is no discussion. no one can seriously tell me that Milan are in the Scudetto race or have anything or remotely have a prayer in
It's
the
not just
Scudetto race.
it's not the we'll come to Juventus later, but it's not just the Scudetto race. I mean that's obviously over, but I mean the top four race is now they're 9 points off the top four
Yeah.
now. Okay, that's Fiorentina, and I don't think Fiorentina will keep it up, but they are as I'm going to say about Juventus afterwards. If Milan and Juventus keep performing and as they are with the results that they're getting, the likes of Lazio and Fiorentina will have a chance, a very real chance of getting a top four place. Not so much because of them, and they're both doing great at the moment, but more so because of Milan and Juventus, like not getting enough points. Do you know what I mean? So Milan, and Fonseca, who is safe at the moment, and we're told that as long as he finishes in the top 8, he's going to get through to the new year for the top 8 of the Champions League, which with a win in midweek against Red Star, we'll put him on the Milan on the brink of finishing the top 8. They do have to be they really do have to be careful. And what Fonseca hasn't been able to do, and this really become apparent in this game in the last few games, I think, is that Milan are unable to marry together being compact and good defensively with their good attacking. It's either one or this season. It's either been one or the other. For most of the season so far, it's been they've been scoring lots of goals. They've got lots of great firepower. They've scored a lot of goals. They're going to continue to score a lot of goals. But they've let themselves down defensively by being way too open. In those games which I mentioned in the Champions League, but also games in Serie A, the Cagliari game, and not being able to defend the crosses to the far post, being too open through the middle, the defenders not defending as a team, all those problems. But then they've also actually had a string of quite a few clean sheets and a few games where they've actually not really let the opposition have many chances. Again, if you take the Juventus game, okay, it's Juventus, and they're not very good attackingly. But even like Inter in the derby, they limited Inter. I think considering the strength of Inter, and I would say in this game as well, I think that they're again Atalanta really created virtually nothing until that Ranieri chance at the end from open play. So they were reasonably compact defensively, but then they lose. Then when in those games where they are compact defensively, they offer absolutely nothing offensively. So in this game against Atalanta, I mean they created. I mean the goal was great. The goal was fantastic. It was a great team move. But apart from that, okay, they had a goal disallowed before that. The second half, I think their XG was about 0.15 or something in the second half. I mean, they were just a complete non-entity. There was just zero threat at all going forward in the second half. They can't put the two together. If they're going to be solid defensively and compact defensively, then everything offensively goes out the window. And if they're going to be good offensively and create lots of chances, they're way too open. Fonseca has been unable to create a balance of marrying offence and defence together. And I think the fact that we're in December now, I think that is a concern.
I agree 100% with that, and I feel that whatever those weaknesses tactically of Fonseca, as well as I think in terms of whether or not he's good enough to handle a club of Milan's stature and to mount a title challenge, all of those fears have now been confirmed as realities. And I think if you also, it's kind of what you said, I think you can basically copy paste when it comes to Juve, but from an opposite angle, in the sense that Juve are very defensively solid, but they're not. They can't create anything in the final third. Whilst Milan, when they create something in the final third, are completely open in defence.
Well, actually, when Juventus tried to go more attacking, remember they went through that sequence where they started conceding loads of goals.
4-4, yeah, right. No, it is. There are issues there, but the problem I think here with Milan is more than maybe perhaps. Well, not more than, but slightly more, is that, even though it's kind of similar, is that I think there's a personnel issue as well. I think Milan have defensive personnel issues. I don't think they've got very many defenders who are good enough to help out, to play the way that Fonseca wants to play. And I think that regardless of who's the coach, it's obvious that some of these players defensively, either if it's because of Fonseca's instructions or what it is. I think with Theo, it could be that, or that he's being used weird, wrong in defensive set pieces. But with Emerson Royal, that's a flop signing. I mean, you can't tell me that he's improved Milan in any shape, size, or form. You can't tell me, and you can use all the underlying stats and whatever acronyms and you want to, but you can't tell me.
Actually, you can't with him.
Well, some would argue, you'd be surprised. But you can't argue that he has improved Milan. There is nothing to suggest that he has. In fact, I think you could make an argument that he has weakened Milan, and the fact that Calabria is an option still further reinforces this point.
Emerson is definitely a downgrade on Calabria going forward, and Calabria is not very good going forward. Emerson is horrendous going forward. He's got nothing going forward. His strength is more defensively. I actually thought he did quite well in this game. Apart from that, he switched off on that goal, which obviously is very, very costly, costing the game. But I don't want to go after him too much in terms of overall performance in this game. I actually thought this was one of his best performances.
Yeah, but it's not just this game, though. I mean, again, we're in December and Milan are completely...
No, listen, I was against this side. Listen, I've watched him at Tottenham for the last 2 years, and I can't believe that anybody at Milan that has watched him play for Tottenham could possibly think that this was a good idea, signing him.
And then you've got, Theo again, this notion that you also see at Inter with Dimarco in terms of aerially, that they just can't defend back post.
Well, I want to raise that because Fonseca went ballistic at full time, saying that it should have been a foul. What do you think of it?
I've looked at it and I don't think I think it's when
I think he got the jump on him, and I think it comes from there, doesn't it? He was
exactly that's precisely the point. But regardless, you could, I think it's a call, and you've seen people give it as a foul. You've seen not give it. Personally, I don't think there's enough in it to give it as a foul. But for me, I don't really care what he said, but the fact that he said it in the manner that he said it suggests to me that this is someone who is
under pressure's getting to him.
Yeah. I think that's because you can't tell me this wasn't a travesty of justice. This wasn't a miscarriage of football justice or anything remotely like that. It was a call which I think most people, when they look at that and understand how the laws of the game work, don't have much of a problem with that thing. Has it been given? Yes. Would it have been harsh to have given the foul? Yes. But not to give it, is it a travesty or miscarriage of justice? Absolutely not. Fonseca was arguing was a miscarriage of justice, which is ludicrous. And that just goes to show that he's again under a lot of pressure. And I think he understands that he could be out by January. I think that's a real thing for him. 9 points off top 4 of Fiorentina, who also have a game in hand. So they can't say that they got a game in hand on Fiorentina.
Yeah,
because that game was also postponed. So
I think the issue here with this incident is, yes, we have seen them given, we have not seen them not given, but I think you've got the starting point from Theo's point of view is he gets caught under the ball.
Exactly,
he's in a bad defensive position himself in the way that he and it starts from there. If he isn't caught under the ball, and doesn't allow De Ketelaere to get the jump on him because he's got his back straight to him, then this probably doesn't happen.
And also, you could argue that almost he jumps into De Ketelaere. Ketelaere jumps.
His body positions, his body position is bad.
Yeah,
I can't really explain it more than that. Like you just if you know, his body position is bad, and that makes it difficult for him to win this ball. And I don't think he can win this ball. It's a great free kick as well. Like it's a difficult one to defend. Like I'm not even sure if I can criticize Magnon for not coming out for it, even though it's in the 6-yard box. It is a difficult ball to defend, but I think that he's going to the way that he was that the two players are squaring up to each other. That's De Ketelaere's winning that all the time, whether he puts his hands on him or he doesn't. So.
No, the way I see it is De Ketelaere is first into the area, into that position. I think he jumps first. He's got he's the first who gets to the ball. He's the first to dominate that area. Theo is reactive. He jumps into the Kettler more than tries to get the ball. Yeah. And I think that's why I think, because that's the clever thing you do when you're late. You jump into the player to claim that you're fouled. That's how I read the game. And this is something that he and Dimarco, who are two of the best left wide players in the world, they have a problem aerially. They have a defensive issue, especially aerially. They are not very good in the air, neither one of them. We've seen it this is the reason why we never ever want to see Dimarco play as a left centre back ever again, because he gets completely dominated every single time in that area. Inter play a back three so they can mitigate for that. But when you play a back four, and you're counting on your wide defender to help out defensively on the far post, on the back post, and you've got someone like Theo, who, as one of our patrons said, he's like the outfield version of Vicario, well, you're going to have problems, aren't you? So, and this is not the first time it happens either. And I think what Theo does in that situation is smart. He jumps into the Kettler to say that to kind of make it look like he was fouled, but the referees didn't fall for it. Regardless, you can't tell me this is a miscarriage of justice. This isn't Lazio against Ludogorets.
We have seen them. We have seen them because he does
give a penalty that everyone in the world with a pair of functioning eyeballs can see as a penalty. Like, this isn't that. This is a call which you've seen them given, you've seen them not given. Personally, I think it's the right call. I don't think it's a miscarriage of justice. I don't think there's an anti-Milan agenda. I think it's utter bollocks, excuse me, to say that. I think it's pathetic to argue that. The same way when Conte talks his nonsense, it's pathetic. But both managers, for different reasons, feel the pressure. Conte feels the pressure because he knows that he needs to do this in order to create space atop of the league. And you have Fonseca, who's doing for the opposite reason. He's feeling under pressure because he's 9 points off fourth, and he knows that he could very much be a dead man walking.
Yeah. Okay, listen. Let's move on. Let's move on from Atalanta versus Milan, and move on to Inter Parma. Not too much to say about this game. This was a really comfortable win for Inter. Dominant performance, 3-1. Created lots of chances, conceded barely anything. Two really excellent finishes. The Dimarco goal is a world-class finish. The flick through his legs with his left foot and then onto his right foot was outstanding, magnificent. Deserves more credit, I think, than it got. It was a touch of class. And then I thought Barella's finish, I mean, it was made really easy for him, the way the guy dived in, but that was a nice composed finish as well. Thuram scores again. Very simple day at the office for Inter, and they move on.
Are very open, and we know that they are. Pecchia is very open, and he likes to, he made life easy for Inter. But what if I take the positive from this game, it was nice to see again this feeling that we've had since the Hellas Verona game, that Inter are a team that are now hitting form. And they're a team that systematically, like Inzaghi's football is settled in, regardless of who plays. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do in both phases. They build from the back. There were several instances where they played vintage Simone Inzaghi's football. As I said, these expansive triangles, one-touch football, horizontally more than vertically. The goal for Barella is a perfect example of that. Dimarco, Thuram, Mkhitaryan with a magical ball to Barella. It was beautiful. This was Inzaghi's football, but it's also, partly we have to concede that Parma made life very easy for Inter. So from that perspective, Inter looked without breaking much of a sweat. They were able to play their football and how they wanted to take on games and impose themselves in both phases. But what I do have problems with is the finishing. Lautaro Martinez, it was dreadful in this game. There's no alibis for him anymore. He misses 3, if not sitters, then big chances. He loses the ball time and time again. He doesn't win it back as much as he used to. His passing isn't good enough. Like, there is a problem there, and in all of Inter are playing for him to help him come out of this, and he has lost weight. He looks fresher, he looks sharper, but my God in heaven, this is not good enough, and he needs to snap out of it as soon as possible, because there are games every single 3 days now from now until March, essentially, and that's not even an exaggeration. And between the Coppa Italia, the Supercoppa, the Champions League, and Serie A, interplay every 3 days. Lautaro Martinez is the captain, and he needs to start behaving like one. And he needs to start performing like one, more than behaving, sorry. He needs to start performing like one on the pitch. But, as I said, there were positives. He looks fresher, he looks sharper, he looks more healthy, he looks more in form. But he also looks like someone like Lautaro can do when he's unbelievably frustrating to watch. When his confidence levels, because I think this is more a mental thing more than anything else, it's gotten to his head, and he, when he's trying to, those penalties that he didn't get in order to kind of break this duck, he needs to start delivering, and I'm sure it will come, but because as his natural fitness looks better, he's he will stop, he will hit his stride, but we can't sit here and pretend that was a good performance by him by any stretch of the imagination, because it absolutely wasn't. The midfield was great. Mkhitaryan
First world problems, eh? First world problems.
I wouldn't say it's first world problems.
compared to Juventus and Milan, it's very, very much.
I don't know if it's first world problems when your captain misses sitter after sitter after sitter and blimped up for no reason in the middle of the season last February, and then in the beginning of this season. I wouldn't say that is a concern. It's the fact that the rest of Inter are hitting their form, which is the saving grace. You can't keep counting on that. Sooner or later, if you squander chances, you're going to get bit in the butt. And I just hope for Inter's sake that he snaps out of it, because Inter need him. But Inzaghi afterwards was very clear that he's probably going to rotate. Bastoni was taken off as a precaution. No, it looks good for Inter in the sense that the system is working. Whatever problems they seemed to have in the beginning of the season seemed to, in terms of how sluggish they looked and tired they looked, that seems to be gone now, thankfully for Inter, from an Inter perspective. And they look to be hitting their stride, and they're not really. It doesn't really feel that they've hit full form just yet. And I think that's a good thing, because December, January, February, that's when Inter need to go on this run that Atalanta are on now, 9 wins in a row. Like, they need to win 10, 12, 15 games in a row from now until end of January, February, if they are to be involved in the Scudetto race, if they are to be, win the Supercoppa, if they're going to go far in the Coppa, etc., etc. But no, it's the positives are the fact that they created loads, seemingly without breaking a sweat. The positives are that they played their football in both phases, seemingly without breaking much of a sweat. The identity and clarity was there. Everyone looked good except for Lautaro. However, he does look physically fitter and fresher. That's a positive as well.
Yeah, and also the fact that Inter's form since the Milan derby is insane. It's 1-11, drawn 2, and for all the concerns about the defence since the 4-4 against Juventus, when that was really raised, Inter have conceded two goals in 7 games. One of them was an own goal.
Yeah.
And the other was off a corner, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, very, very good, and made Parma look very, very simple. A Parma team that have actually been very, very dangerous against the bigger teams this season, Juventus and Milan in particular. But let's move on to Juventus now, who preserve their unbeaten record in Serie A. Mbangula scoring right at the death, 2 minutes into injury time to save Juve 2-2, coming back from 2 goals down. But the bottom line is, overall, it's another negative result for Juventus, who now we can now absolutely for certain write off the Scudetto. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. They're way off the top, but even again, as we said with Milan, Juventus really do have to be careful now with the top 4. If Fiorentina win their game in hand, there'll be 7 points. I know the game in hand is against Inter, but they'll be 7 points off the top 4. And as I said for Milan, while we don't expect a Fiorentina or even a Lazio necessarily to continue the incredible starts to the season that they've made, if Milan and Juventus keep, producing the results that they are, then by default they're going to struggle to get in the top four. That's just basic fact based on the results and the performances. So yeah, it is concerning. It is concerning. In this game, I thought Juventus were really poor for the most of this game. Defended poor, which hasn't been the case this season. Locatelli and Rui on the first goal, dreadful defending. Locatelli and Gatti on the second goal, awful defending. Defensively, they struggled. Gatti, he had a shocker here. Kalulu was pretty poor. Rui, I can't criticise the guy because it's so obvious that he's nowhere near this level at this stage of his career. You saw that, but you can't blame him. He shouldn't be left. Juventus shouldn't be in a position that they're having to play Rui. But not just the defence, the midfield was awful. Motta made the decision to bench Thuram, which I kind of understand because you've got to, he needs to rest, but there isn't many options. Locatelli and Fagioli, my gosh, they were bad in this game. I mean, Bologna, until the Bologna first goal, Juventus were completely dominated in midfield, outplayed. Juventus couldn't get out at all. This wasn't like some of the other games we've had with Juventus where they've dominated possession, but they've just been completely sterile. This was a game where Italiano, for really until Juventus went for broke at 2-0 and tried to desperately rescue the game and managed to get their way back and managed to somehow salvage a point. This is a game where Juventus are outplayed in terms of the football, in terms of the control of the game, and the Italianos completely outcoached Motta in this game. So it was very, very concerning. And like you said about Fonseca, his comments at the end of the game, I think the fact that Motta got himself sent off again,
shows
I think
it.
That's an example of that is highlights that the pressure is getting to Motta. And I would expand on that. The players, I didn't like the fact that the players were arguing, complaining at the ref. The ref was awful in this game, right? And there's no doubt about that. But if you're a big team, you can't, winning teams do not argue and moan and blame the referee, especially when they're for relatively minor things like getting a yellow card or giving away a free kick in the middle of the pitch. They were moaning and arguing non-stop. They were losing their heads over these like minor fouls that they weren't getting. And that is not how a winning team behaves. And that, for me, that was very concerning as well.
I don't mind players complaining as long as they don't lose their concentration and focus.
Which
and that's
they
what Juventus did. And that shows to me that Juventus are under pressure. Again, to echo pretty much what we said about Milan, I'd say this is even worse. Because realistically, no one but the most ardent Milan fan believed Milan had a prayer to win the Scudetto this season. However, Juventus spent a lot. And they are out now in December, out of the Scudetto race, earlier than last year with Allegri. That is utterly unacceptable. There is no painting, there's no perfumes or any spin in the world that can change that fact that Juventus have already failed in the Serie A at an earlier stage than previous seasons under Allegri, especially last season. And that's just unacceptable. That is just not good enough. Whose fault that is? There's plenty of blame to go around. The injury situation, which is a joke now, Cambiasso out again. God knows what is a month now. What is it? He's going to be gone for a month?
Well, as we're recording this on Sunday afternoon, the last I heard that they were doing tests today. So I don't know if anything's come out yet about how long he's going to be out for. So
yeah, I saw something.
I hope it's not a month, otherwise, because he's been Juventus' best player this season. So it's a total disaster. If Rui has to play another game at left back, then we might as well just go home now. So it's I think you're spot on. There's a lot of blame to
So
go
I want
around.
to continue because I think there's also Giuntoli. I think not just what he did is oh no, yeah, now I saw it. He's got an ankle injury. Cambiasso.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we knew that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it says they're going to monitor him, but yeah, he's going to come back he's not going to be out until 2025.
Christ Almighty.
When Giuntoli failed Juventus, not just this summer, but also the summer under Allegri and the windows under Allegri, he didn't give him anything.
Well, Juventus were I can't blame Giuntoli for the Allegri summer. Juventus were completely hamstrung. They were butchered by the ban in Europe. There's nothing.
Absolutely, but
there's nothing. Allegri, he couldn't do anything in that summer. There was nothing he could do. So I don't blame him there.
No, well, he couldn't do anything. He didn't do anything, and he didn't. When it was clearly obvious that Allegri was going to leave at the end of that season, it was obvious to everybody, and that's why Allegri reacted the way he did. He felt disrespected, right? So everybody knew this, and yet there were no real preparation done. That entire year is just a wasted year. Nothing was done to prepare for Thiago Motta coming, and when Thiago Motta came, if you remember last summer, a lot of things were done really late as well. Which
I think they did prepare, but they did do the preparations. Like the Cook Miners deal was done months. It was prepared months in advance. They just couldn't get the funds. They couldn't offload the players in time, or even offload some players. I think. Listen, I think the mistake that Giuntoli made was the squad wasn't big enough. So as soon as they started, okay, the injury situation is separate. I'll come to that. As soon as the Juventus started to get these injuries, and of course there's way too many injuries than anybody could possibly thought that you can prepare a squad to get this to deal with this many injuries. Any team would struggle when you've got half your squad injured. Of course, any squad's going to struggle, but they were still, even regardless of the injuries, they were still too thin, and that is, to go into the season, for example, with only one fit striker, that's on Giuntoli. Because everybody knew that Milik was going to be out for half a season. You can't go with just one striker into the season. They were short on one winger as well. They tried to bring in Sancho. When that didn't happen, they just didn't bother bringing in anyone else. So they were short on a winger as well. They were fine at centre midfield, but obviously the injuries and the inexplicable form of some of the bad form of the signings. Defence, they were too short. There's no doubt about it. They tried to sign Todibo and Calafiori before, and then when they didn't get them, they just got Kalulu and they didn't bring anyone else in. So they were left short, probably one or two men in defence short. So I think that's the biggest criticism on Giuntoli, is that he didn't bring in enough numbers. And the one criticism that I've made, and I have to say I've been proven 100% right on this. I was very, very critical of the decision to sign, because I understand that Giuntoli only had so much budget to play with. And in some ways, he's done a very good job at getting all the high earners off, on cutting the salary, the wage bill down massively. He'd done very, very well on that. And I understand that he only had so much budget to play with, and it wasn't easy to do all the business that he was trying to revolutionise the squad with the budget that he had to play with. I mean, Juventus spent a lot of money, but their net spend is only around about just over 50 million. So it's not like they went out and spent a crazy net spend. They spent a hell of a lot of money gross wise, but when you cut off, and especially when you then do the amortization with the wage bill and everything, the spending actually hasn't been that high. But it wasn't easy to do that juggling. But where I'm very, very critical of is the decision to sign Di Gregorio. I said it the minute that they bought him. I think it was a big, big mistake, because that they spent 20 million on Di Gregorio, right? That should have been, if they really, really wanted to sign Di Gregorio, they should have booked it for next year. If they were that desperate to sign him, they should have booked it for next year. There was no need to spend 20 million on Di Gregorio now, when you had Szczesny already for one more year. And in the end, they got rid of Szczesny and they had to give him a payoff for him to go. I don't know how much it was, but they had to pay him off. So it wasn't like he went for free. They already had Perin, who's actually become the first choice goalkeeper in the last few games. He played again at the weekend. And Perrin's clearly good enough to do what if they wanted to have him for one season. They should have gone with Szczesny and Perrin just for this one season. Or if they really wanted to get Szczesny off the books, get rid of Szczesny, have Perrin as your number one, and bring in someone for cheap for a season as your backup goalkeeper. That would have been absolutely fine. Spend that 20 million on bringing in a player for your outfield, which you need, or even bringing in two players. That was a big mistake from City. That is where I'm most critical, because that money should have been used.
That's absolutely part of it. I mean, it's all of that, and also,
and that's not. By the way, can I just to specify, just so that no one has a go? That's not me saying that I don't like Gregorio. I think he's good. I think he's actually done quite well for Juventus, and I think he's going to be a good goalkeeper for Juventus. But they needed to understand what the priorities were. And by signing through Gregorio, it meant that they went short in the outfield in certain areas of the field, and that has hurt them more during the season with a lack of squad and with all these injuries. So that's where I blame Gentili the most.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, it's that. But to continue what I said, the injuries, Giuntoli, and for everything you said, and also we have to talk about Thiago Motta. He has so far failed to create at Juve. I mean, we're talking about a Juve. Okay, they haven't lost. That's great, and that's always important. And draw Ventus and all that, Parigentus and all that everyone's joking about. But at the same time, when you create 0.48 in the first half against Bologna at home, you have one chance really, which Vlahovic again squanders.
Well, Fagioli missed a sitter, to be fair, in that first half. That was the big chance, the Fagioli one, which he put over. But yeah, not good enough. Again, under one XG in total this game.
Yeah, it's not
good enough.
It's not good enough, and it's not just this game. It's over and over and over again this season, and they just, it's like I said, it looks really nice as soon as they reach just outside the penalty.
Not in this game though. In general, yes. In general, this season, yes.
Flatlines.
Not in this game.
No ideas.
This game was horrible. Even from that aspect, it was horrible.
It was, but it was also. This is also on Motta, and he, again, I've been told for the last 4 years that Chiesa was destroyed because of Allegri. Well, Federico Chiesa now plays with the Cop kids. He's the star of the Cop kids. He plays with children in Liverpool. He doesn't even play with his second team. He plays with literal teenagers. That's Federico Chiesa.
Yeah, but
that's got nothing to do with Allegri.
Well, let's say Allegri destroyed them. The first half of the but let's also acknowledge.
No.
I've got to come back on that just before you move on. Allegri destroyed Chiesa in the first half of his first season.
Did not
the first half of the first season. He was a disaster.
Federico Chiesa's career was ruined by the injury. Had nothing to do with Max Allegri.
No,
he's literally playing with teenagers in Liverpool.
Yes,
that is not on Max Allegri.
But the first half of his first season
of Cop kids. That's what he is.
Nima, the first time, and you know this because we spoke about it on the pod numerous times. The first half of his first season under Allegri, Chiesa was a total disaster under Allegri before his ACL when he was playing him at right wing back. So let's not forget that as well.
He didn't play him all the time at right wing back. He played him a couple of games there, but he also said that he wanted to play him as a second striker, and he refused to play there and said he hates playing it. He wants to play.
He played him at right mid,
and the result of that has happened. What? Well, now he's the star of Cop kids. He's not even part of the first team. He plays with children in Liverpool. That's not Allegri's fault. Then you have Dusan Vlahovic, who, if you go on social media, Juventus fans are now for 2024 alone doing video compilations of his misses, which are 3, 4, 5 minutes long, of Vlahovic missing sitters. That's not Vlahovic. That was also
Juventus' struggle.
Allegri's fault, but it's not. This is what I'm saying. Thiago Motta has been given more backing, has been given pretty much everything he needed, and he's failed so far. Allegri was not backed. So I think we should.
Well, Allegri was backed. No, he wasn't backed last season. He was backed in the second season. He was backed. We cannot say he wasn't backed. Look at Juventus'. Oh, look, he got everything he wanted. Every single signing that Allegri asked for in his second season, he asked for. He got Pogba, he got Di Maria, he got Paredes. Every single player he asked for, he got. He wanted ready-made, developed players. He got everything. He got everything he wanted.
He did not get everything he wanted, and the very idea that you're looking for Paul.
Okay, I'm making it up. He didn't. He named the 3 players he wanted were Pogba, Di Maria, Paredes. They were the three players. He got all of them. He even said after that he got the players that he wanted in the transfer market. So he got what he wanted that season.
If you look
Last season he didn't, but that was because of the not getting in Europe, and there was nothing that could be done.
Not just that, but also if you look at his entire tenure, all I heard for the 3 years he was there was what a disaster he is, how horrible
he was a disaster, but that doesn't change the fact that he was a disaster. Is irrelevant. Motta's struggles is irrelevant.
Motta has been a cluster F of a disaster so far at Juve, despite being backed 10,000 times more than Allegri was in 3 years. And all I'm hearing is Allegri was horrible. Allegri was horrible.
That doesn't change.
Allegri finished top 4 every single season. He won a trophy. Thiago Motta is not going. He's not in the top 4 now. He's creating less than that, and he's got a much better squad than Allegri ever had.
Yeah, but Nima, you have to acknowledge.
So no. The fact of the matter is
that Motta's also had half of his squad available. You can't say he's been backed if he's had none of the.
And Max Allegri had a club that didn't exist because they did a bunch of nonsense, which forced them to resign.
So what's the point?
Disturbing. No, the point is
that Motta's struggles doesn't make Allegri good.
No, it does. It means
it doesn't.
Maybe the problem at Juventus had nothing to do with Allegri as such, but it's everything to do with a club who's in complete turmoil, who has no idea what they're doing, and they haven't had an idea what they're doing pretty much since Marotta left. That's the point. And it has got absolutely all to do with Max Allegri, who, despite in the face of unbelievable problems, created and delivered good results. Whilst Thiago Motta, who was backed fully, has delivered worse results. Now, I was nuanced then, I'm nuanced now. I'm saying Motta still needs time. You can't just give up the project completely, but at one standard will do just fine. If we're going to crucify Allegri as being this, that, and the other, the same standard should apply when we look at Thiago Motta, who is failing.
I agree with you, but the same goes the other way. You can't say just because Motta's is struggling right now that suddenly Allegri did well, when everybody that watched Allegri for 3 years could tell you that he was horrific,
and everyone who
was absolutely horrific. So that doesn't change anything.
Will understand that the reason why Allegri failed those years was because of a Juventus in complete turmoil. The Juventus are not in complete turmoil anymore now. They have a new management in place, a management that is making mistakes, but it's incomparable to compare this Juventus with the one that Allegri inherited after the Cristiano Ronaldo debacle. It's just not even remotely comparable. And if you take all the factors into consideration, you see that actually Allegri did pretty okay. It wasn't that bad. The problem then comes that when you start investing, Douglas Luiz, 60 million, complete flop. Coop Miners finally scores a goal, but he's hardly been.
Nima, there's been circumstances to both the struggles of Allegri and Motta. If you want a nuanced take, there's been circumstances. We can talk about him being backed more in the transfer market this summer in terms of trying to build something for the future. Absolutely, no doubt about it. But when you have 9 of those players unavailable for the last month and a half, then that is a huge circumstance, which you can't say, Motta's got all the players that he wants. He hasn't had them. They've all been injured, most of them. So there's circumstances. It's not just one or the other. And I agree with you. For those that said it was all Allegri, well, it's been shown it wasn't all Allegri. But also, the same goes the other way, Nima. The same goes to the idiots that are all pining for Allegri to come back, thinking if Allegri was in charge, that suddenly all would be okay. It wouldn't be all okay. It would be the same as it was. So there's if you want to talk about nuance, you've got to go both ways on both sides. That's the way. If I want to blame Motta, right, on something about the injuries and say that he's actually contributed to the injuries, I've been speaking to sources at Juventus actually, and I've been told by a number of sources that a number of Juventus players are not happy with Thiago Motta's training sessions, that they're too intense, that he's making no exceptions or changes based on if there are multiple games in a week or if players are coming back from international duty, and that a number of the players believe that this is contributing greatly to their injury crisis. Now, if I want to criticise Motta, if this is true, and comes from more than one source, if this is true, then yes, this is where you start criticizing. We definitely start criticizing Motta because he's directly contributing to this injury crisis. McKennie, I've been told that McKennie came back from international duty, and as soon as he stepped off the plane, the same day or the day after, he was put into a highly intense training session, and then he got injured straight away because he wasn't, he was overloaded. And that Motta, there's been criticism that Motta is treating Juventus like Bologna, in the sense that Bologna were playing once a week last season, and that Allegri is that this season Juventus are playing, twice a week, and that you have to tailor your training regimes and your intensity of your training sessions and the number of your training sessions and how you train the players and the rest that you give the players when you're playing more. So this is what I've been told, and
Yeah,
I don't want to blame it all on Motta, because again, I've been following Juventus for years, and I know during the Allegri's time, injuries were also a problem. They were never as bad as this. I mean, this is off the charts. This is an absolute scandal what's going on. And again, coming back to Motta, needs to be taken into account. Look at the Juventus team that played against Bologna. I mean, Danilo, who's completely finished. Rui, who's a Serie A player.
No, he's a teenager. We don't know what level player he is. He's not ready at this level.
No, he's not. Exactly. That's the point.
And
Gatti,
again, like
Timothy Weah, Fagioli. No, these are the level of players we're talking about here. So, these kind of things need to be taken into account. But if Motta also, he needs to look at himself and realise, well, we're playing twice a week. I need to, I can't do things exactly how I want to do them. But I think this is an Italian problem as well. I think I've said it many times, all the coaches that I was speaking to, Italian coaching in terms of training the players physically is completely outdated. It's too intense. They run players into the ground, starting from pre-season into the matches. And that is why the Serie A is the worst league in Europe for injuries, for ACLs. We had another ACL, by the way, at the weekend. It looks like Gaspar for Lecce. It's because we're exhausting our players and we're training them too hard. So this is what I've been told, and it would make sense, I think, if this is the case.
No, if that was the case, it would make sense. But it could also be a way by people at Juventus trying to protect their own asses by blaming it on Motta and saying that it's the reason we have such an injury crisis because of his training methods, as opposed to the staff that work with the health and to monitor players' health and so on and so forth.
Could be, yeah, it could
be. I take that with a pinch of salt. I do, however, think that yes, Motta is to blame for this as well, because again, it's not just him; it's all of the above. How much percentage to blame? Most 30%, 40%, 20%. That's a separate debate. But the fact of the matter is that Juventus today, in December 2024, are way off worse with a better team than Allegri had last season. And those are just the facts. And injury-wise, they're also far worse. And Allegri was also mocked for the way he prepared players. I'm just saying, my nuanced position on this is, I'm not giving up on the Motta project, but it would be completely... in fact, I think he should be given more time. I think Giuntoli should be given more of the blame for not doing properly in neither window, neither last summer or this summer, or any of the windows that he's been at Juve until, to be perfectly honest. And so we should give him time, and it takes time to grow and all these things. But the fact of the matter is, the way that Allegri was shat on for 3 years continuously, and Motta being given a pass despite being given more funds.
I don't think he's been given a pass. Who's giving him a pass? Nobody's giving him.
You are. You're literally giving him a pass.
I'm giving him a pass.
Compared to Allegri, you're giving him a pass, which I think is just ridiculous.
Am I? Have I said something completely different for the last month, where I've been criticising Motta continuously for a month?
Criticising him, fine.
I'm saying it's simple that because Motta is struggling at Juventus does not change anything of the fact that Allegri was horrific for Juventus for 3 years. That's what I'm saying. If that's given Motta a pass, then I don't see how that is giving Motta a pass, because I'm literally saying both.
If Allegri had spent as much
I'm saying Allegri got everything that he wanted in the second season, which is plain fact. He even said it himself.
Yeah.
He even said it himself. So
the fact that you have a sporting director that doesn't even see a problem with the fact that you bring in Paredes and Pogba, and you're
Well,
putting it on the
but
coach.
that was Allegri's demands. So you
Yeah,
can blame Allegri.
Allegri can demand what he wants.
Allegri took
A
over the
coach can
transfer.
demand what he
Allegri
wants.
was
A
in
good
charge of
sporting director.
transfers that second summer.
Jose Mourinho demanded Frank Lampard and Ricardo Carvalho at Inter, but Inter said no. They got Lucio and Wesley Sneijder, and they won the treble. Like this is why you have a sporting director, someone who understands the dynamics and the finances of it and can bring the coach on board. Juventus have not had a proper sporting director for years. They have Giuntoli, who's obviously failed since he's been there, because look at the state of Juventus now in the squad. So that's what I'm saying.
Well,
There's plenty of blame to go around.
There's plenty of blame to go around. Juventus were bad under Allegri. They're bad at the
arguably
moment.
Worse now.
What?
But they are. There is hope for the future. That's all I'm saying. That there is actually.
Which is why I'd much rather be, as a Juventus fan, in the position Juventus are in now than under Allegri. Under Allegri, there was no hope. It was just going to be like this forever with not building towards anything.
Disagree, and that's exactly what I mean about giving Motta a pass.
No, I'm not talking about Motta. I'm talking about the whole project here as well. I'm not talking just about Motta.
Allegri, there was no project under Allegri because there was no club under Allegri. That's the point I'm making, and that's where we disagree. I think that Allegri was very poorly treated, and I think that this is redemption for him.
But Allegri had no intention himself of building a project, which is why he didn't. That's why he demanded established players in like a 34-year-old Di Maria and a clearly past it Pogba and a Paredes, and he's taken some out because he didn't want to build. He wanted players already there because
if an actual sporting director was there to create a project and unite, he would not have been in that position. But Juventus, like I said, there was nothing there, and so they had to just bring in something to make him happy. Again, you work as a team. It's not just one manager. This isn't football from the 80s anymore. You have to have a team behind you with a clear project, with a clear identity. Allegri was sold to the wind. Just left alone here, Allegri, just make this work for a couple of years while we balance the books and then bring someone to replace you. Oh, in the meantime, you're going to be hung out to dry every week in the media. Like, he was treated poorly, and I think it's not fair to crucify him the way that he was, especially when it's worse now. The results are worse now. The injuries are worse now.
People
the
keep going on. People keep going on about,
and the position of Juventus in the league is far worse.
Well, people keep going on about them being 9 points worse off now than they were under Allegri last season, but that's not how you look at it. You look at it over the course of the season. After 15
games, we can't make comparisons.
Well, no, because if we're going to do that, then we'll compare the second halves of Motta's season with the second half of Allegri's season, when Allegri had one of the worst second half. Allegri had one of the worst second halves of the season in the history
because he overperformed in the first season.
Forget about the second half, the points in the first half of the season. The points just in the second half of the season were one of the worst second halves of the season, points-wise, in the history of Juventus. It's irrelevant how he did in the first half of the season. I'm talking about just
it's not. Because
I'm talking about the points. Look at the points in the second half of the season, last season, under Allegri. It was one of the worst points tallies in the history of Juventus.
I do not know the future. I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea. If I did, I would play the lottery every week. I have no bloody idea what's going to happen in the future, right? If I could accurately predict it, then I would, like I said, I'd play the lottery. I'd play Toto Calcio every week. But no. So what I'm saying is the only comparison we can make is based on the results we have. And after 15 games with Motta, these are the results compared to last season after 15 games. That's the comparison we're making. And that's the only one we can do.
So you can, but I don't think it's relevant when you look at the second.
Of course, it's relevant.
Well, it's not, because you look at the second half of the season. We can look at
the second half of the season. If you want to
compare the points per game last season. Allegri last season, I've just worked it out. Points per game 1.86. Points per game for Motta 1.8. Finished the season with 71 points. And Motta right now will finish on 68 points, so 3 points less than Allegri. So Allegri's got 3 more points over the course of the season, so he's doing a little bit better
so far. But again, I don't. Those predictions are irrelevant. I'm talking about the actual measurable, quantifiable results that we have up until this point. When we get to match day 35, 36, 38, then we can compare them overall. But right now, as of things are, Thiago Motta has been backed far more than Allegri, and he's delivered far more results, and those are just the facts. Those are just the empirical facts. Now, why that is a completely different discussion, which we've already covered. My issue is Allegri was very poorly treated, and I think it was poorly disrespected, and I think this is redemption for him. And it just goes to show that it's not that easy at a club like Juve to have to handle everything, especially when you have a sporting director that, from the minute he took over, was obvious he didn't want you there. with Giuntoli. It was obvious. Everybody knew that Allegri was going to leave as soon as Giuntoli was appointed. We all did that. And they did nothing for it. So I blame Giuntoli more. Now, is it salvageable? Of course it is. I remember Marotta when he took over Juve first and how severely criticized. I mean, I've got this thing. I have a very good memory. I remember how Juventus fans were slaughtering Marotta in the beginning when he came to Juve, when he appointed Del Neri, when they failed, and everything that happened in the beginning. It took some time for him to learn the ropes. I'm sure Giuntoli will learn the ropes because
they finished 7th in his first season.
Yeah, he did. So, but Marotta did. But like I said, Marotta, because he was given time, he got into it. Giuntoli has a better CV at that age than Marotta did, so I have no doubts that he will probably turn the ship around. But the fact of the matter is, at that moment in time, Marotta was severely criticized, and Juve was severely criticized, and they should be the same standard should apply now. That's it.
Yeah. Well, it was never going to be a panacea. It was impossible. There are too many changes, too many players brought in and revolutionised in one summer. The youngest squad in Serie A, which you can maybe criticise Giuntoli for. Maybe you can say maybe they've got too many young players. Yeah. Okay. But the point is that Juventus were never going to be a title challenger, at the start of the season.
No. They had to be. You can't sit and tell me that you net spend that much and you're not a title
challenger. But they haven't net spended that much. They've net spent about 50 million, Nima. That's not that much.
Which is quite a lot by Serie A standards. You can't literally sit and tell me that if you net
but it's not even, it's a net spend on transfer fees. If you look at the wage bill has gone down massively. So it's not even really a 50 million net spend if you amortise it over the years. If we're playing Championship Manager, yes, we can say it's 50 million net spend.
I'm talking about...
so it's not really, they haven't actually spent that much.
They have net spent 50 million
on transfer fees.
On transfers. But no. That's what they have in players in versus players out in transfer fees.
Yeah.
And
the salary bill's gone down massively.
Yeah, but that's a separate debate. They have arguably strengthened the squad. The results are not good enough. That's just a fact.
That is true. But again, circumstances. You look at the squad. You got half your squad out. It's not easy. It's not easy. That needs to be taken into account. Plus, there were gaps. You can't say that there wasn't gaps that in the squad. Again, you can blame that a bit on Giuntoli. You can also say it's unrealistic. You can also say it's unrealistic to expect Juventus to change their entire squad in one summer, especially with the limits of the budget.
But I don't think it's unrealistic to expect Juventus to not fall from the title race on December 8th. That is not unrealistic. That is just poor, and that's the point I'm making.
I think that's fair. I do think that's fair, but I've been critical of Motta a lot, and I was the first person to talk about his weaknesses before anybody else. When everybody was saying that Motta was going to bring back the beautiful champagne football, before anyone else, I was talking about.
They weren't watching Bologna properly.
Yeah, before anybody else. So when you start saying, sorry, no offense, Nima, when you start saying bullshit, I'm giving him a pass. That's not true, Nima. So don't start.
If Allegri delivered these results, you'd be hunger striking outside of the Italian embassy in London with a fatwa against Allegri. So that's the difference. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think I've been pretty harsh on Motta, and again, you can't say otherwise.
Don't bullshit.
If it wasn't, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be doing what the English journalists do, and not saying that Motta was potentially to blame for the injury crisis. I'd be keeping that quiet because I don't give a shit. So the point is that at the moment Juventus are struggling, and if they don't start turning this around, they are gonna struggle for top 4 as well, just like Milan. I actually think
they are. This is it.
I think right now we can say pretty much. I think we can say with certainty now that one of Milan or Juventus are going to miss out on top 4.
I think so too, because I don't see Napoli collapsing. I certainly don't see Inter and Atalanta collapsing out of the top 4. So I think one of them will miss it, and it's going to be a disaster for either one that does it. Personally, I think Juventus are in a better position to finish in the top 4 than Milan is. But again, remains to be seen.
Could change though. Like if Milan change manager, bring someone better in, could resurrect that. But again, I wouldn't.
Well, when do they do that? Is there enough time and so on and so forth? But yeah, we'll see. But I do
want to praise Bologna though, because just quickly, Ndoye, I've said for a long time that as soon as he starts scoring more goals, we have a really potentially top level player. And second game in a row now he scored. He scored 2 last week. He also hit the post early in this game. He destroyed Rui. I felt a bit sorry for Rui, to be honest, because he was so out of his depth. And
He's a
Cash.
kid. He shouldn't be in this situation to begin with.
No,
Like
he shouldn't.
it's
But having said that, though, you lose Cabal to an ACL, then you lose Cambiasso. Rui's third choice left back. Okay, maybe they should have a third choice left back. But it's also it's a bit circumstances, isn't it?
it is.
How
And
can
these
how can you expect
you
that to
can't
happen?
prepare for 3 ACLs. Like you just can't. Like no one can. It's not, injuries is one thing, but 2-3 ACLs is just, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Castro and Pobega. I thought Castro, interesting player, Castro, for his age.
Been linked to Inter, and it's been confirmed that Inter are interested. That back heel flick was absolutely stunning.
It
I
was.
have that as one of my Baggio.
It was brainless defending by Gatti to go out to him. I don't know why he went charging out there. Just hold your position. But, that's kind of what Italiano is good at. They're good at kind of dragging players out of position like that. It was a great finish as well from Pobega. Dinked finish. They were both excellent. But the player that really stood out for me was Bukema. Sam Bukema, the centre-back. A really interesting player. Dominated Vlahovic really for most of the game. But he's not just a good defender. He's very, very good on the ball as well. Like his range of passing, long passing, cross-field passes. Big teams are looking at him, including Juventus, apparently. I like him. I really, really like him, Bukema. So I think he's another. Bologna again have got some. They've got some good players that are gonna join big clubs. I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think Santiago Castro is the one that we're looking at because he's doing really, really well. He's only 20 years old. This is his first season. It's it would be cool to see if Italiano can do something with him. He's an interesting player.
I want to praise Italiano and then criticise him at the end, but I praise Italiano. He outcoached Motta in this game. This is the first time. Like Motta hasn't been outcoached really this season, apart from the Stuttgart game against Honus. He hasn't been. That isn't one criticism that you can have of Motta. He hasn't been outcoached. He's just been sterile offensively. He's always been generally Juventus have been the team in control of games. They've never really been, tactically outcoached and opened up. And apart from that Stuttgart game and then this game, this game he outcoached Motta, and it was very, very impressive. But he let himself down at 2-1. They should have just again. This is where Italiano lets himself down. Why are they pushing forward at 2-1 in injury time? And then they lose the ball. And like Juventus did against Lecce earlier in the week, they're pushing forward in numbers. They lose it. And then Juventus have got an extra men going forward. They counter. Vlahovic cuts it back to Mbangula. It was a great goal from Mbangula. Fantastic goal. But you just can't do that. So, that's where Italiano lets him down. Because other than that, I thought he outcoached Motta in this game. I don't know.
Agreed. I think especially in terms of in how impressing he had Motta's number, and I think lots of people are looking at that and going, is that how you do it? But no,
they couldn't get out. They couldn't
get out. And I think if we're talking like Bologna were unlucky too. They had more than enough chances to kill off this game. But no, look, it's but it's Italiano to and his Bologna, I think this is their level. I don't see them. They're a mid-table side. They have some interesting players. It's going to look like this. They don't really have a proper goal scorer. Endoi is probably going to be the next one that they sell. Big money transfer and so on. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm just been disappointed. They're actually, to be honest with you, considering all the sales they've done, they're actually doing pretty well in Serie A.
Yeah.
They're just below Milan. In fact, if they'd have won this game against Juventus, they hadn't conceded that late goal. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm just going to check the table now. If they'd then won their game in hand, so they would have gone up to 24. Juventus would have been on 20. Yeah, if they'd have won their game in hand, they would have gone above Juventus.
Yeah.
And they would have been above Milan as well. So they would have been above. If they hadn't have conceded that late goal, they would have been the game in hand away from going above Milan and Juventus. In fact, they would have been above Milan already. So
yeah, they would have. Yeah.
So they're level with Milan actually right now.
22 points. Yeah.
So they're actually in Serie A. They're doing well. It's just in Europe that they really disappointed me, which we shouldn't be surprised by because obviously inexperienced and they lack the quality. But I would have expected more than 1 point. To be honest, I think that is a bit of a failure from Italiano to only have 1 point. I'm not saying they should qualify, but 3 or 4
But it
points at
seems
least.
like he can't. Like we've seen this at Fiorentina as well. He failed in the league for all the years he was there, but he did decently in the cups. He got to 2 Conference League finals.
Other way around now.
Yeah, it's the other way around now.
Weird, isn't it?
So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Roma, though, they get their first win under Claudio Ranieri against Lecce. Dominant win, 4-1. They created countless chances. They probably could have scored double the amount of goals that they scored. Salamakers probably should have had a hat-trick. He scored his first goal for Roma. They were good. I was impressed by Roma. I mean, Lecce are a terrible team, and makes me feel even worse about how the hell Juventus can't beat this Lecce team. They are so bad.
But for me, one thing, I mean, I don't want to piss on Roma's parade here because I think this was an important win for them to calm down. And, they played the 3-4-1-2. Dybala was good. Paredes was good. Hummels was excellent. All the players you mentioned.
Hummels was fantastic.
Yeah. El Shaarawy was great. Alexis Salamakers. But then you look at the bench of unused subs. Enzo Lefebvre, Baldanzi, Pellegrini, and Sule. And Samuel Dahl. These are players they signed, most of them this summer or within the last 12 months, except for Pellegrini, and that's not that's problematic. I think, in the sense that you can't even against Lecce get them.
Well, this season's a write-off. We know that, don't we? So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a write-off. It's just it is what it is.
Pisilli scored, which I thought was good for them, so that's positive. It's nice to see Roma continue to play the youngsters.
I think what Ranieri's done well is that he's tried to create a team and a team that plays like men, that stand up to be counted for, that are going to be, they're not going to be pushovers. And we see that he's trying to create a team that work hard, that they're organised, competitive, they've got good team spirit, they're physical, and you can see that in the players that he plays in terms of their characteristics. Even physically, like the three big centre-backs, imposing centre-backs, Hummels, Mancini, who scored a header, Undika, they're leaders. Hummels, I think, is really, having not got a look in before, is really turning into a leader for Roma now. And Kone in midfield. Kone's been the one.
I really like Kone.
He's fantastic. He's fantastic. He's been the one success story from there.
Yeah, he has. The summer market. I really like him. I love the kind of midfielder he is and the way that I love his physicality, but I also like his technique. I like his shooting. I enjoy him. I enjoy watching him play. I really do.
He's quality. He is quality. Yeah.
So far he's been very good.
He is. So yeah, I mean, it's a win. They've got Como and Parma next before Milan in Serie A. So they need to win these 2 games, and then they can, try and move up the table before that big game to close 2024. But it's But
first they got Braga in the Europa League, which
they need to win as well.
Yeah, and then they got Como away. Then they got Sampdoria in the Coppa, and then they got Parma before they got Milan, and then Lazio, the derby, early in 2025, which is going to be a cracker.
Yeah,
always is, but especially now with Ranieri.
The battle for mid-table.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
Yeah, but I mean that's pretty much how it's been. But Lazio are not mid-table; they're 5th. So.
Oh no! Sorry, I thought you said Milan. I'm talking about Roma, Milan.
Lazio. No, I was talking about the Milan, derby, the Derby della Capitale in early January, which is going to be a very, very spicy affair.
Yeah, for sure. Fiorentina Cagliari. So Fiorentina win 1-0. Cataldi with the winner.
Fiorentina's hero, Cataldi, in many ways than one.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Quite fitting after he helped to save the life of Eduardo Bove last week, who Bove we'll talk about in a minute. But Fiorentina's form now, 8th win in a row in Serie A. It's insane. They're joint. I mean, first of all, can I say they didn't play well in this game. They didn't deserve to win this game. To be honest, they had a 0.25 xG. Cataldi's goal was a bit of a really individual, fantastic strike from outside the area. I think Cagliari deserved a draw in this game, but again, a bit like Atalanta, Fiorentina showed that they can win, scoring lots of goals as they have done recently. But they can also, win kind of playing ugly and just defending and being compact. And not only can I just say, just to finish, Nima, that not only have they won these 8 games in a row, During this 8-game run, they've only conceded 3 goals, so that they're showing that defensively they're actually quite solid.
Very. And I'm really impressed with what Palladino's doing. I like that he has shown that he understands he's grown with the task, as we say in Sweden. From Monza to Fiorentina, we knew already at Monza that he can organize attack. He has very interesting attacking patterns. But when you get further up the pyramid you go, it becomes more and more interesting, and the task becomes more difficult, whether or not you are able to actually sort out a defense and score and win and grind out results. I mean, that's what a winner makes. And he's 8 wins in the Serie A in a row is very impressive, and not conceding very much either. And to grind out results despite a difficult, shocking week. I mean, again, Fiorentina with a medical emergency. This is a club that has been very, very unlucky with these things in recent years, and to be able to focus the squad after being knocked out in the on penalties in midweek in the Coppa Italia, to kind of turn it around is impressive, I think, and to be able to deliver and get back to winning ways and not concede, and it was impressive. It's impressive. Palladino's doing a very good job, and people need to not sleep on Fiorentina. I think they're going to cause teams quite a bit of problems this season. Top teams.
Yeah, I mean they're very fit. They look very, very well physically conditioned, a bit like Atalanta. Apparently one of the doctors of the Fiorentina team is Nicola Gori, who was the doctor from the Italian Cycling Federation between 2017 and 2020, which was the period, or which was called the it's got a special name in Italian, like the Italian cycling of miracles, or the era of miracles, or something like that. Basically, it was a kind of a bit of a golden period for cycling, and he's working for them. So I'm sure that he's what? Why are you laughing?
No,
don't put words in my mouth now, Nima. He's got them. He's definitely going to be. He definitely knows a few tricks, like to get.
Oh, there we go. See, this is what I knew you were moving towards.
You started laughing.
That's why I started laughing. Exactly, because I know you. I know exactly.
He's a bit of a Bangsbo figure at Fiorentina. Let's say that.
What?
Like he's.
What was that?
So he's a bit of a Bangsbo figure at Fiorentina.
Oh, there we go.
No, but they do look physically very well conditioned. Like Atalanta, I should have said it before. Like Atalanta look incredibly well physically conditioned this season. Like it's unbelievable how good they look physically, and that makes a big difference. In games. I mean, like again, coming back. I don't want to keep bringing it back to Juventus, but Juventus look so flat. They don't have that intensity, which they had in the first month of the season when Juventus were really good, pressing really well, smothering teams, not letting them out. Juventus don't seem to be able to do that because physically they're not in the same condition they were for one reason or another, including the injuries. Whereas Fiorentina, Atalanta, these two teams in particular, they look so good. Even Lazio, I think, physically look really, really well conditioned at the moment. It makes a difference, And so I mean, Fiorentina are looking great, but on the defense, I watched the game against Cagliari, and Comuzzo, he's really turning into I'm really looking forward to seeing this guy's development, because he's really turning into a commanding centre back. He's a big physical specimen, and
I like him.
He's a real monster in the air. Like he attacks the ball, and he's commanding, and he makes the ball his own, and he's a real.
He has presence.
Yeah, he's intimidating.
Yeah, he is,
and
so young.
What is he? 19, I think.
Yes,
I mean,
young defenders usually nowadays don't.
Ginger as well. I mean, how many? Yeah. Who's the greatest ginger Italian footballer that we've had?
Biondini is the one that comes up to mind.
He played for Italy one time as well, actually. Biondini, but I mean, like Apolloni, he was ginger. Yeah. He was a good player in the 90s for Parma. What other ones have we had?
Ginger Italian.
If you're listening, guys, ginger footballers. Who's the best Italian
ones? Yeah.
Italian ginger footballers?
Starting lineup of Italian gingers, the best one you can find.
Yeah. He's really, but Fiorentina's defense actually is really good because I mean, Gosens at left back has been, he's got to be
Very good.
he's got to be one of the better left backs in Serie A.
Yeah,
Gosens,
he's been very,
and
very good.
Dodo has really pushed on. He's definitely one of the best right backs in the league. Dodo, really like him going forward. He's always a danger. And De Gea in goal has been, so good. So it's weird, isn't it? Like defensively, Fiorentina are actually really, really good.
No, they
What
really
a
are.
turnaround!
It is. It is, and I'm impressed. Like I said about Palladino, I'm really, really impressed with him. I think he's doing a fantastic job, and he's surprising. He's surprising me. I was expecting him to do good, but not this good. Maybe it's a overperformance, and they'll regress to the mean because I don't think the.
I think it is. I think they will start to drop, but I mean, again, I'll come
so
back.
far so
I
good.
don't think that they can realistically challenge for top four. But again, I'll repeat: if Juventus and Milan keep performing and producing the results as they are, then Fiorentina are going to be there or thereabouts, just based on that. And especially if
It's
they
a
win.
little bit like when Sarri finished second with Lazio, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't exactly the most.
No, the points tally
It
wasn't
wasn't the
particularly great.
highest,
No,
and it was more down to the others not being able to win their games. I mean, Inter reached the Champions League final, losing 12 games in the Serie A, finishing third, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So,
even finishing third with 12 defeats is you should be
insane.
you should be struggling really. So it depends what kind of season that. So far this season, I think even with Juventus and Milan, these crises wouldn't be as fully blown if Fiorentina and Lazio weren't going, even Atalanta weren't going on these crazy runs. I mean, Atalanta, how many? 9 wins in a row. Fiorentina, 8 wins in a row. Lazio, what was it, 10 wins in 11 before that defeat? I mean, is if they were a bit kind of normal, still good runs, but normal, then Juventus would probably only be Milan would only be a couple of points behind, and there would be no, people wouldn't be. So sometimes it depends season on season, kind of how everyone else is doing.
Absolutely.
Just Bove. We have to talk about Bove. This is still a developing story, but the latest is that he's still in hospital as we record, but he's due to leave hospital next week. So again, this hasn't officially been confirmed, but I think it's pretty much been kind of acknowledged that he did have a cardiac arrest, and that they are now making a decision. I've seen some reports saying he's going to have a defibrillator implant. I've seen other reports saying he's still considering whether to have it implanted or not. It's pretty simple though, isn't it, Nima? If he does have it implanted, then that's his career over in Italy and for the Italy national team.
Well, if he doesn't have it implanted, his career in Italy is over because they don't. I don't think they're going to allow.
He'd have to pass it. He'd have to pass a medical, which he probably wouldn't pass.
Exactly. So I think he's going to have it, but I think he's going to leave the Serie A. Just like Christian Eriksen. I mean, the Christian Eriksen, what happened to him, we all know. He suffered cardiac arrest. He had a defibrillator implanted. Well, he's playing in the Premier League. So he can have a career. It's just not going to be in Italy.
And it's also end of career for Italy national team, which is sad, really sad, because this is a player that was knocking on the door of an Italy national team call up, 22 years old.
Yeah.
And, I don't know whether, he developed so much this season, we don't know how he would have developed, but the fact that his Italy national team career will be over as well.
His Fiorentina career is over.
His Fiorentina career is over, yeah.
Which is a shame because he was doing really well. But again, the most important thing is that he's alive. He's okay. No serious, post medical emergency issues. So
it's obviously serious. If you're getting a defibrillator implant, then it's serious, isn't it? So thankfully he survived. That's the most important thing, and this will protect him going forward. It's from a footballing point of view, it's really, really so sad. It's so sad at the age of 22, and that's his Serie A career over and his Italy national team career over. It's heartbreaking. It really is.
No, it is. It absolutely is.
But it's again, this is happening too much in the last few years, and nothing will be done about it. They won't do an investigation into it. They don't want to go there, but it's happening too much. Again, when I was growing up in the 90s, when we were growing up in the 90s, this never happened. You never heard about these things, not in the top leagues.
Well, it happened, but it didn't happen like this.
No, it didn't.
Not this much.
And if it
not
did
this
happen,
often.
it'd be something that would dominate the news for months, years, even. Like when Mark Vivian Foe happened,
I was just about to say him.
Mark Vivian Foe, you heard about it for years afterwards. Mwamba, which was what was about like 2010, 11. Again, like these things happened, in the top leagues. You'd get something like this once every few years. It's happening all the time now. So it's something that, it really does need to be looked into. They won't. They don't want to go there for various reasons. But it's happening too much. It's happening way too much. Rest of the weekend, Serie A fixtures. So Genoa 0, Torino 0, Verona 1, Empoli 4, and great week for Empoli because they knocked out Fiorentina in the Coppa Italia, playing their reserve team, and Esposito scoring 2 goals in this game. What a weekend this has been for the Esposito brothers. All 3 of them scored this weekend.
Well, not just that, assists as well. Like they've had an unbelievable, the other 2 play for Spezia, they scored. I think Salvatore scored twice. Pio scored his 8th of the Serie B. And of course, Sebastiano scored midweek and against Fiorentina.
That was a great finish. That was,
it was a lovely
which cost me my bet, I should just say. That did. I was only waiting on Fiorentina to win. They were 2-1 up with 15 minutes to go. And I was just waiting for them to hold out. Esposito ruined it for me. It was a great finish, to be fair. Dinked it over the keeper. He's got class, that guy. He does have the class. Whether or not, he can make it to the top, but he's definitely got the class. He's got that touch and that natural ability. No doubt about that.
Yeah. No, it's no. He's look. He this is his level, in my opinion. Empoli, Sassuolo, like this is his level. He's not better than that. And I think it's great if he scores. I hope he gets another couple of more, so that Empoli buy him from Inter, and we don't need to have him on the books anymore. Because Inter have been trying to shop him off for a couple of seasons now.
He's doing well though. He's got 6 goals this season already.
Yeah, 4 in the Serie A.
And 2 in Coppa. I mean, it's pretty impressive, He's only 22 years old, so yeah.
No, he is. He's decent, but he's not. I just don't see him as a top striker. Like, I don't think he's got what it takes to be at the very top.
We have to see how he develops. I mean, he's a bit of a problem position for modern football, isn't he? As well, that's part of the problem, I think. But good to see. Venezia. We're recording this before Venezia Como, because we're actually recording most of this pod in the Sunday afternoon, and then we're going to quickly nip on after the game between Napoli and Lazio just to record that. So, we're recording this. We're recording the beginning at the end, and the end at the beginning, the beginning, if that makes sense. So, we won't come back to this. So, Venezia Como, and then Monza are playing Udinese on Monday. Champions League fixtures midweek. Champions League match day 6. So big games, massive games. This midweek we've got Atalanta versus Real Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen Inter on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday we've got Milan versus Red Star Belgrade, Juventus versus Man City, and Benfica against Bologna. So the Tuesday games really is kind of about Atalanta and Inter trying to get results to finish in the top 8, to get in the top 8. I mean, Inter just need 3 points from their last 3 games to finish in the top 8. So they're in a good position, and they can even probably afford a draw. Even a defeat wouldn't be the end of the world in this game for Inter. So they're quite relaxed going into this match. Atalanta need 5 points from their last 3 matches. 2 of those games are against Madrid and Barcelona. So, and then their other game is one, I can't remember who it's against, it's one they should be expected to win. So realistically, they're probably going to need to beat one of Madrid or Barcelona or draw with both of them. So I think they should just go for it. Yeah, I think they should just try and get the win. If they win this game, then they're on the brink of top 8 as well. But it's going to be a great game, as we said before. Milan, Red Star, Milan need 2 wins and a draw from their last 3 games to finish in the top 8. And they've got quite an easy last 3 matches. So that this is a must-win game for them. Bologna, they're out basically. They've got 1 point, so we can forget about them. They need to win all 3 of their last 3 matches to somehow qualify in the top 24. So I think we can forget about that. Benfica away is hard, and then you got Juventus, Man City, 2 teams that are both like really struggling. Both teams have got 2 wins in 10 games, and Juventus obviously another injury now with Cambiasso. It's a good time to play Man City. It's also a good time to play Juventus as well. So, yeah, I'm hoping for a biscotta in this game. I'm hoping that Pep and Motta, former Barcelona teammates, I think they were at Barcelona together. Maybe at the end of Pep's reign, maybe they can come together and do a little biscotta and go for a draw, because both teams need 2 points from their last 3 games to qualify in the last 24. So a point would do both teams handy. So a nice little biscotta. How about that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It wouldn't surprise me, but no. In all honesty, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm really keen to see Atalanta, Madrid, Leverkusen, Inter, Juve, City. I mean, these are really big games. I'm really keen to see Atalanta and see if they can beat Real Madrid and finish in the top 8, which would be a huge achievement. I'm really keen to see the tactical battle between Xabi Alonso and Simone Inzaghi. That's the main takeaway. I'm kind of, that's what I'm mainly keen on watching, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's and then of course you got Juve City as well, and see how that goes. Like, can Juve, it's a little bit 2 teams with the self-esteem in the toilet right now, so Juve and City. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it, and can Juve bounce back. I mean, one thing that is positive about Juve is that they continue to score late goals from behind, and they won't lose. That shows character. So that is something that's very positive as well. We have to remember that, and I think that's also something that I think started with Allegri, but has definitely improved under Thiago Motta. This notion that Juve just never say die. That's important.
Yeah, and they do have spirit. They do have spirit. That's certain. Certainly, they haven't lost that under Motta. So, yeah, that was one of the few positives from the Bologna game.
Absolutely. And then Magula's goal was stunning as well. I love that finish.
Yeah. Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. Baggio. So I've
got quite a few. Dimarco's little thing before he scored, the Mkhitaryan's pass, Inzaghi's movements before Barella's goal, Mbangula's finish, what's his name, Castro's flick on in the Bologna game. Quite a few there.
The Esposito brothers as well.
Yeah, the Esposito brothers for sure. Quite a few Baggios.
Yeah, absolutely. Premface of the week. We haven't managed to find one, have we?
Well, no. I for me, I don't care if people think I'm being boring or a stick in the mud or whatever. But to me, watching Thierry Henry and Jamie Carragher and Kate Abdo do tit puns,
oh yes,
to make Micah Richards laugh was so infantile that I don't even know where to begin. Like, yeah, I mean, it's just, I just found it really, really childish.
It's
so
cringe.
Yeah, you can call me a boomer, you can call me whatever you want, but I think breast puns on TV when, saying things like, oh, what do you think of breast, Jamie? I like the look of him. I mean, it's like you just read the transcript of that, and it's just like, I
can't believe they go along with it. I'm all up for a bit of word puns and fun, but I mean that's kind of like that's something that you
13-year-olds.
That's something. No, at 13, I'm thinking I'm past this now. Do you know what I mean? Well, I've graduated from the school of puns with breast.
Tit puns, tit puns. Yeah.
I grew up. I think I grew out of that after going to KFC. Like at the age of 11. Oh, what would you like? Oh, I'd like some breast, please.
Breast. Yeah. Yeah. No. I don't. I mean, to me, it was just I just found it really, really childish and reductive, and I mean
that whole show is just scripted. It's just staged and scripted. The entire show.
Of course, it's staged.
The entire show is just so.
It's just these and the whole
it's
thing
so
of,
fake.
let's make Micah laugh and he's I don't know. I like Michael Richards. I think he's a fun guy. And I think Thierry Henry is actually a very underrated analyst if he's used properly. And to a certain extent, Jamie Carragher as well. I actually quite like him and Gary Neville on Sky when they used to go back and forth. Tactically, that is. But yeah, this is just, the whole thing is just so cringe. At least for me, it's TV time turned into 10-year-old boys group chat is just not.
I don't mind that. I think a bit of banter is good, but
yeah, me too.
But you got to pick the right stuff. And are we really going there? Like, seriously,
Jamie, what do you think of Brest? I like the look of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
Less said about that.
Serie A ass of the week. Right. I've got a few. First of all, Dovbik's name being spelt wrong on his shirt for the Roma versus Atalanta game. Yeah, Dovbik. Insane.
That made me laugh.
Serie A just never. They never changed.
That was hilarious.
Can't even get the name spelt right. The FIFA Club World Cup draw was just a. We're talking about CBS.
Del Piero talking about immigrants coming over, and what the hell was going on?
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? It's like Diletta Leotta gets called up on stage to help present, and Del Piero goes, another Italian, another wave of immigrants in Miami.
And then they had didn't they have Donald Trump there as well, who was
Ivanka.
Yeah, Ivanka, yeah. But I mean,
Ivanka.
But there was a clip from Donald Trump which I've seen.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
where he disses Barron, his son, for liking soccer but not being good enough, which is hilarious. He throws shade on his own son, which I'd laugh my ass off.
It was so bizarre. Yeah,
it was so funny. And then when he says that Gianni, the way he pronounces Gianni Infantino's name, I'm addicted to that. Gianni.
It was like, it was like there was funny. Wenger was dancing.
He's a president and I'm a president. I mean, it's just comedy.
Yeah, you had Wenger dancing. You had Gloria Estefan. It was like a kind of, like a regional Italian TV variety kind of show. It was like, everything's going wrong. It's like
Rise. Like, essentially, it was like Mediaset New Year's show from 1987.
Yes.
It was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Like pantomime, unrehearsed pantomime.
Yes, an unrehearsed pantomime. Yes, that's the best way to describe it. But the Trump thing, though, had me on the floor. I could not stop laughing. And it was insane. It was very, very funny. Very, very funny.
The final one. I'm a bit late to the party on this. This is actually like 2 weeks ago now, but we should have. Did you see the Aston Villa versus Juventus broadcast where he had Llorente, Marchisio, and Gianfranco Zola? They were obviously trying to dress, because the game was in Birmingham, which is where Peaky Blinders are from. They were obviously trying to dress like Peaky Blinders, so they had
Marchisio looked
like insane. They had the cap on and everything. Oh my god, what were they? I mean, like, Italians are usually like, we are the best at fashion, right? We dress the best, we look the best. Wow, what the hell was that? I mean, Marchisio, like the best comment I saw on one of the posts was it was like all three of them wore each other's clothes.
Yeah, none of the clothes fitted them. Yeah. And Marchisio looked he looked craziest. He looked absolutely craziest. It was very, very funny.
Yeah, his was like it was like drowning him, basically. It was like 10 sizes too big for him. And Llorente wore like Zolas because it was too small. So Marchisio wore Llorente's because it was too big. Llorente wore Zola's because it was too small, and Zola wore Marchisio's. It was just, oh my god.
Yeah, it was very...
bad. Right, okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you everyone for listening. We will be back this week for definite Q&A and post-match Champions League midweek show. For definite, we might have another show, possible interview, possibly not. It's sort of confirmed, not confirmed. So, I don't want to say for definite on that. But we'll have plenty of you coming this week. So enjoy the week ahead, everybody. Until next time, ciao, ciao.